If we are dividing the interval from 1 to 2 into nth equal rectangle, one of them will be 2 minus 1 over n. So we call it delta x. Now we need a point representative. We need a point inside the interval that is representative of one of those rectangles. That point should be inside the interval, so we're going to start with 1 first. And to make sure that it is within between 1 and 2. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the counting mechanism to it. And the counting mechanism will be 1 over n multiplied by I. So our C subscript I will be 1 plus 1 over n multiplied by I, which is I over n. So we're going to slide it. When I is equal to 0, it'll be 1. And when I is equal to n, it'll be 2. Now, the area will be the limit as n goes to infinity of the sum from I equal to 1 to I equal to n of f of c sub I multiplied by the equal width, which is delta x. Now, f of c sub I is just f of 1 plus I over n times delta x, and delta x is 1 over n. We have to go back to the function f of x to replace f of 1 plus I over n by 4 minus 1 plus I over n between parentheses squared, close our parentheses, times 1 over n. Now let's take care of the sum first, and then we'll look for the limit. We're going to have 4 minus, it's going to be 1 minus 2I over n, 1 squared minus 2 times 1 times I over n, minus I squared n squared, times 1 over n. 4 minus 1 will be 3, minus 2I over n, minus I squared over n squared, times 1 over n. Now we're going to separate the sum and distribute 1 over n over each term. So we'll get 3 over n minus the sum of 2I over n squared multiplied by 1 over n minus the sum of I squared over n cubed, which is really 1 over n is the constant, so it's 1 over n times the sum of 3, negative 2 over n squared times the sum of I, minus 1 over n cubed times the sum from 1 to n of I squared. The sum of c is cn, so it's going to be 3n over n. The sum of I will be, according to the formula, n times n plus 1 over 2 minus 1 over n cubed. And the sum of I squared is n times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1 over 6. Now, when taking the limit, we are just going to take the limit of the leading coefficient. 3n over n is 3 as n goes to infinity, minus the limit. The leading coefficient over here will be n squared over n squared, because the 2 cancel, and n times n is n squared. That's all we need, n squared over n squared. The limit as n goes to infinity, n times 2n, 2n cubed leading coefficient over 6n cubed leading coefficient. The limit of 3 is 3. The limit of n squared over n squared is 1, so it's minus 1. The limit of 2n cubed over 6n cubed is 2 over 6. So we get 3 minus 1, which is 2, and 2 minus 1/3 will be 6/3 minus 1/3, 5/3.